Yeah, our Republicans may not be letting us go forward, but if they don't, we're going to try to get unanimous consent. We have to show some accountability here. And when Republicans block something as simple as that, and really, in terms of its cost, not very onerous, they should be held accountable for it. We believe this should pass, and it should pass by UC.
Folks, what do you think will happen with the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI? Do you think that President Biden is going to step up to the plate and help the people out with stimulus checks? I want to know your thoughts on this, so tell me in the comments. So we have a ton of news about the fourth stimulus check, Social Security benefits, SSI, and SSDI. Top Democrats are using to push the budget reconciliation process to pass the Build Back Better bill. This means that we need to gain Republican support of the bill, and President Biden is debating on whether he should expand monthly benefit checks permanently. Several House Democrats have introduced a bill that would actually make the monthly $300 tax credit expansion in President Biden's $1.9 trillion bill permanent. Joe Biden thinks that the legislation could pass the Senate, but it's possible that it will face Republican opposition. According to Insider News, the measure was unveiled by Democratic representatives. Now, in a statement, these representatives said, "We must use this moment to pass the American Family Act and permanently expand the improved child tax credit by increasing the benefit to families and providing payments monthly." Biden's $1.9 trillion stimulus package that signed into law in March actually expanded child tax credits to $3,000 for each child ages 6 to 17 and $3,600 for each child under the age of 6. Under the law, the IRS was able to send the payments as monthly $250 or $300 checks, depending on the age of the child. Single parents earning $75,000 or less and couples were entitled to receiving the full amount. But lawmakers have made it clear that they want to make the enhanced child tax credit permanent. Democrats use a budget reconciliation process to pass the latest stimulus bill through Congress without Republican support, but the process can only be used once every fiscal year. So it's possible that the Biden administration could use reconciliation this time. And according to the Wall Street economist, Ed Yardeni, Democrats have just 50 votes in the Senate, and that's still a slim majority. Now, consumer sentiment dropped almost 10% in May, with Americans' assessment of their current financial situation at its lowest point since 2013, when the economy was struggling with the aftermath of the Great Recession. Yet consumers continue to spend, likely due to personal savings that grew during the crisis. During the past 2 years, multiple rounds of stimulus payments and cutbacks on traveling and dining out helped bolster the personal savings rate. Stimulus checks are here, everybody, and get ready to receive them. So we have a ton of good news about the fourth stimulus payments. There are huge developments being made on the fourth stimulus package. The IRS has confirmed a possible new delivery date for the next round of stimulus. So with tax filing season already underway, many tax experts are warning taxpayers to brace for another year of delays and complications. Underscoring the importance of filing early and preparing your information, the IRS started accepting 2021 tax returns on January 24th, more than 2 weeks earlier than the start of last year's filing date. Most taxpayers have until April 18th to file, but the IRS has a long road ahead of it. Stimulus checks and scaled-up child tax credit payments are creating extra work for the IRS. So, in many areas, the IRS is unable to deliver the amount of service and enforcement that a tax system needs. So folks, in 2022, the new year of this year's tax filing season all comes down to the crisis. The federal government tasked the IRS with delivering most of the direct aid approved for 2021 in President Biden's American Rescue Plan. According to the IRS commissioner, they said they urged extra attention to those who received an economic impact payment or an advanced child tax credit last year. And people should make sure that they report the correct amount on their tax return to avoid delays. Plus, those features can cause delays because they leave more room in error, either because the IRS didn't tally American stimulus totals correctly or because taxpayers made a math error. So when a tax return doesn't match up with IRS records, it's placed in the agency's paper processing backlog, a logjam that's been increasingly hard to work through amid hiring and training challenges. That means taxpayers are likely to encounter delays if they make a mistake when they file, or even if they submit in a return that's an error-free return. Taxpayers who also wait up until the last minute risk accumulating a significant wait time. According to tax experts, getting started early and filing electronically are the two most important things when you're trying to get a stimulus check and extra money from the IRS. And if you are a U.S. household with dependent children, you will also want to pay careful attention when submitting your tax return this season, because it's your main opportunity to reconcile any missing child tax credit payments or settle any overpaid balances from throughout the year. Friends, keep an eye out for letter 6419 from the IRS, which will detail how much money you've already received through the program. The maximum credit a household can receive per each child under age 5 totaled around $3,600, while the maximum payment was around $3,000. Now, before the credit was $2,000 for all dependents. Now, unless families opted out, most households have likely received half of the credit that they're eligible for via 6-monthly advance payments. That means they can expect to receive their remaining balance of up to $1,800 or even $1,500 on their 2021 tax return.
Transition. I want to make sure I had it. He called it an incredible transition. The incredible transition that's happening today with energy is we're going from being a nation that's energy dominant to energy dependent. We're going from a nation of prosperity to a nation of poverty. We're going from a nation of wealth to a nation of weakness. There are people hurting all around this country. We're at a 40-year high of inflation, highest gas prices ever, and families are running out of places where they can cut their spending. They're cutting out haircuts, they're cutting out movies, cutting out music lessons for the kids. For people living on a fixed income, for people living paycheck to paycheck, it's no longer about how much does it cost to fill the tank. They can't afford to fill the tank. They can just take so much money to the gas station and see how much gas they'll be able to get. And as a result of these high prices, people are cutting out activities. It's Memorial Day weekend. Picnics and gatherings are being canceled all across the country. And for grandparents who spent the last 2 years in a lockdown because of COVID and couldn't see the grandkids, now we're entering a new lockdown because they can't afford the gas to go and see the grandkids. So that is the incredible transition of Joe Biden, who seems to be quite unconcerned about the high cost. He's basically saying, take your medicine, we're going to get you off of fossil fuels one way or the other. We have the energy in the ground in this country. The president ought to be getting the permits passed, the permission to drill, and the infrastructure, the energy infrastructure that is so desperately needed. Joe Biden is the president of high energy prices.
Mass shootings are taking the lives of babies, of parents, of brothers and sisters everywhere. And you know, my community knows this all too well. Tragedy occurred at Sandy Hook Elementary School nearly 10 years ago. It took the lives of 20 beautiful, innocent souls, babies, and 6 teachers, and it shook us to our very core. We are gathered today for this hearing to find ways to support our educators,